Welcome back to another jam-packed week on the sideline. This week we'll be talking about both basketball teams as they head into the second week of their season. We'll also be talking about volleyball and soccer as their seasons are coming to an end. We will also look at sports both from a regional and national level. So are you ready to head on down to the Pioneer Sideline? Welcome to the Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Kyle Anthony. The men's soccer team was in a new position this year, and that position was not having a bye or being a top 2 team going into the playoffs. So to see how the team did in their new position, I'm joined by Josh Coop, who was there to get the scoop.
Thanks, Kyle. They didn't get that first round bye, which means it's quarterfinal playoff time. Under the lights Saturday at Highmark Stadium. We got the highlights for you here on the sideline. Cincinnati Christian, the Eagles facing off against the Point Park Pioneers. Point Park, the number 3 seed. We're going to get started here in the 14th minute. We're scoreless up to this point, but watch the ball handling and the dribbling by Alan Ramos. He had 3 guys around him, and he still put it in the back of the net. Here's the replay from the field cam. Watch it. Whop! Right around one guy, and then boom, right past the keeper. It's 1-0 Point Park. 14 minutes into the game, just 5 minutes later. 19 minutes in, it's a nice touch pass there from Marius Seeger. And go, he goes top shelf. It's 2-0 Point Park. Alan Ramos gets his second of the game. He's looking for number 3 here in the 30th minute. Ball trickling out of bounds. Matt Buckley keeps it in, gets it right back to Ramos, and we have a 3-0 lead for the Pioneers, a hat trick for Ramos. Well, guess what? He wasn't done. We go 9 minutes later, 39th minute, still at 3-0 lead. Christian Mika, what a pass over everybody. Ramos boots it in the air, gets it past the keeper. It's 4-0 Point Park. That's the halftime score. Ramos with 4 goals in the game. Hey, senior Dom Canello wants to get involved here. Ball bouncing around in the box. Goalie deflects it off the post. There for the rebound is Canello. Gives Point Park a 5-0 lead. Hey, that's your final. Point Park wins in dominating fashion over Cincinnati Christian 5-0. They move on to the semifinals of the KIAC tournament. They'll face West Virginia Tech November 12th. Tech did defeat Point Park earlier in the season, back on September 30th, 2-0. West Virginia Tech's lost only 1 game all season. But Point Park, props to them, they got double-digit wins for the 5th year in a row, with the regular season record going into these semis at 10-6.
Now, Josh, I know Alan Ramos had a big performance, but who else from the Pioneers will need to step up going into the game versus West Virginia Tech?
You need to look at Zach Bursavoy at the goalkeeper position. He's been great all year. I think he'll show up to the game. Tech scored 2 goals against Point Park on Bursavoy, both down a man. So then we turn to the forwards, the midfielders, and the defense. The Pioneers need to get on the ball quickly. They need to have good shot accuracy, and they need to press West Virginia. They need to step up the pressure, and they've done that in the past few games. They had 5 goals against Cincinnati Christian. Dom Canello needs to step up. You saw him. He had a goal as a senior. This may be his last game, and he knows that. There's a few seniors on this team that realize they need to step up, and we're going to look to them to step up against the Golden Bears.
Now, Josh, I know West Virginia Tech does have some scoring power. What will the Pioneers need to do defensively to stop that scoring?
They need to keep the ball out of West Virginia Tech's possession. Whenever the Golden Bears played Point Park at Highmark Stadium, Tech controlled the majority of the possession, even in the second half when they were down a man. They were down a man due to a red card early in the match, and they kept the man advantage for the entirety of the game, and they still won 2-0. To stop them, they need to somehow prevent West Virginia Tech from getting the ball. They need to have smart passes. They need to move the ball around well. And Alan Ramos had an impressive goal. That first one where he dribbled around everybody, he can't do that every time. When West Virginia Tech's defense collapses around him, he has to have somebody there. And Point Park's offense is going to be prepared for the Golden Bears, you better bet.
Thanks, Josh. The Point Park volleyball team is trying to pick up some late season wins before they head into the conference tournament. But it has not been easy for them, to say the least. I'm joined by Mike Turk to tell us if it got any easier last weekend.
Yes, after a rough past 2 weeks that included 7 consecutive losses, the volleyball team got back to their winning ways this past week. They took a road trip to Kentucky and finished off their regular season play against Alice Lloyd and Asbury. They first squared off against Alice Lloyd, who had lost 16 consecutive matches coming into this one and had not picked up a KIAC win all season. Point Park didn't waste any time in this match as they would sweep Alice Lloyd by the score of 25-7 in all 3 sets. It was an offensive explosion day for the women as they had 3 players end the match with double-digit kills. Megan Branchick with 12, Nikki Ann Cortano with 11, and Shiloh Simonson with 10. Madison Weldon dished out a team-high 23 assists to go along with her 8 aces. The Pioneers recorded 15 aces as a team. A day later, in the final match of the regular season, Point Park was the underdog to the number 3 team in the KIAC, Asbury. Going into the match, Asbury had a record of 21-12 overall and 9-2 in the KIAC. Point Park could jump ahead to the number 3 seed with a win over Asbury because they only trailed them by 1 game in the standings. And Point Park did just that as they would pick up their biggest win of the season, 3-1 set score over Asbury. Point Park won the first 2 sets by commanding scores of 25-17 and 25-14. They nearly completed the sweep in the 3rd set, but gave up a few late points as Asbury avoided the sweep, winning 26-24. But the Pioneers were able to complete the upset in the 4th set, winning by another commanding score of 25-15. Megan Branchick had a team high in kills with 22, and libero Paige Baker recorded 22 digs out of the back row. The women clinched 3rd place in the KIAC standings and the number 3 seed in the upcoming KIAC tournament at Rio Grande on November 13th and 14th. The Pioneers finished with the overall record of 15-22, but the real record that matters is the 9-3 record in the KIAC play. The KIAC tournament kicks off this week as the Pioneers will play the host team, Rio Grande, in the first round this coming Friday evening at 5 p.m. The Pioneers did win this tournament last year on their home court, so their quest to repeat as KIAC champions begins Friday evening at Rio Grande.
Now, Mike, how important was it for the Pioneers to get the number 3 seed going into the KIAC tournament?
It was huge. They've had a roller coaster season, as we all know, going up and down, up and down. And whatever the easiest path is to the championship, even though it never is really that easy, it's good for them to have since they've struggled all season.
Now, Mike, I know they have struggled this season, and I know it's been kind of disappointing, but can they overcome this disappointment and get to a successful point and win this KIAC tournament?
Absolutely. Records back at 0-0 when it hits playoff time. They're playing Rio Grande, as I said, in the first round. They played Rio Grande at home on senior night, and they did lose 3-2, but it was a match they definitely could have won. So they had to feel pretty confident going into this first round, and now they just beat Asbury, who was one of the better teams in the conference. So I think they can make some noise this coming weekend.
Thanks, Mike. The basketball teams had a home doubleheader, including a matchup against nationally ranked teams. Mike Turk and Alex Martage will join us to give us a scoop after the break.
Start your morning with City News.
Start your morning with campus news.
Start your morning with political coverage.
Start your morning with fun.
Start your morning with us, only on Daybreak.
We know you're wondering what the A-list celebrities are up to.
Well, here at Entertainment on Point, we're wondering too.
Have you heard about James Franco and Seth Rogen's new movie?
No, but have you heard Beyonce's new single?
Did you see what she was wearing on that red carpet?
Honey, that was not cute.
Did you see what happened on Scandal this week?
No, I was too busy keeping up with the Kardashians. No matter what your guilty pleasure is, we've got you covered.
Entertainment on Point.
Get to the point of pop culture. Yeah!
The women's basketball season got off on the wrong foot with the team losing their first game. The team tried to rebound this past weekend, and we have Mike Turk in studio once again who will tell us if the team was able to get a win.
After losing a heartbreaker in their home opener against Bluefield, Virginia last Saturday on Halloween, the Point Park women's basketball team was able to bounce back and get a come-from-behind victory over Northwestern Ohio at home. It was not the prettiest of victories as the women had 25 turnovers for the game. In the game, the Pioneers got off to a cold start, shooting 4 for 13 from the field with 8 turnovers as they trailed after the first quarter 20-12. The Pioneers were able to start hitting shots from the field as sophomore transfer Angelina Starr entered the game off the bench and drained 2 threes to trim down the deficit. The Pioneers were going to head into halftime with a 3-point lead before Stacia Allen drained a 3 right as time expired in the first half. So at the half, the score was knotted up at 32 apiece. When the second half began, the Pioneers continued to struggle to protect the ball. But with stellar defense, the Pioneers were able to limit the Racers to shooting only 28% from the field and 1 for 12 from the three-point land in the second half. Point Park went into the fourth quarter trailing 48-46. The Pioneers didn't waste much time as Selena DePietro, Leah Hurst, and Alexis Zanakis all hit shots from the outside to build a 55-50 lead with 5 minutes remaining. From there on, the Pioneers were able to steal a few baskets with strong drives from freshman guard Caitlin Smith to have a 6-point lead with just over 2 minutes left. Through strong free throw shooting at 80%, the women were able to hold on to win their first game of the year by a final score of 64-55. Some stats from the game include junior guard Selena DePietro leading the game in points with 17 and shooting 3 for 8 from three-point land. Junior forward Carly Forst finished the game with a double-double, recording 10 points and 10 rebounds to go along with 6 assists. Sophomore center Bailey Beluca dominated down low with 9 rebounds to go along with her 9 points. The Pioneers won the rebounding battle for the game, grabbing 40 boards opposed to the Racers' 36 rebounds. The women's basketball team returns to action on Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. for a non-conference game at Penn State Beaver.
Now, Mike, I know this team was able to hold on to the lead, but why weren't they able to hold on to the ball?
I don't know. There's a lot of experience on that team, because they lost so many upperclassmen from last year. So maybe it's just like first game jitters, I think, in my opinion.
Now, Mike, I know we got a good performance from Selena DePietro this weekend, but can we just rely on her all season, or do we need to find a real established scorer?
Yeah, you definitely can't rely on one player all season. We were saying it during the game, this team isn't going to have many scorers in double digits throughout the game. It's going to have to be a team effort with a lot of players coming off the bench, and the scoring has to be spread out through the team, that's for sure. Look for Bailey Beluca down low, who did not start out the first game this season, but she got the start in the second game, and she almost had a double-double. She had 9 and 9 points and rebounds. So look for her to be a force down low this year.
Thanks, Mike. The men's basketball team started off like a dream with them picking up a couple big wins. To tell us if they were able to add to that win total, I'm joined by Alex Martich, who has all the information we need to know about the team.
The Point Park men's basketball team was back in action this weekend, following what has been a stellar start to the season. The team scored over 100 points in each of their first 2 games and a combined 37 three-pointers. Unfortunately, the good fortune did not continue as the Pioneers had their first loss of the season, falling 95-50 against Northwest Ohio. The Pioneers, who often look to players such as Jeremiah Williams and Kelvin Goodwin for good plays, failed to see production from their leaders, who were a combined 13 for 45 from the field. Although, when looking for a silver lining in this game, the Pioneer coaches will find it in the play of Lasana Kanate, who was 8 of 11 from the field, as well as Yondell Dennis, who had a double-double with 12 points and 13 rebounds. And while the team struggled from behind the three-point line, the Pioneers showed that they can get it done inside the key as well, as they attempted 26 free throws, almost 3 times that of opponent Northwest Ohio. The Pioneers also were impressive on defense with 8 steals and 4 blocks, as opposed to Northwest Ohio, who only had 3 steals and a single block. The Racers' Lawrence Jackson tied his school's record in the game, scoring a whopping 41 points in the game. Ultimately, though, if the Pioneers will be looking for a different outcome in the future, they have to get back to their pre-established identity, and that means draining some threes, because obviously going 9 for 37 from behind the arc just isn't going to cut it for this team. And while they can get back the ball inside, the 3 ball is a game changer. The Pioneers will be back in action tonight as they travel to Washington Adventist in D.C. and will then face off against Buffalo State this upcoming Saturday.
Now, Alex, you mentioned that they weren't able to hit many threes, but can they actually rely on threes being the reason why they win this season?
No, I don't think that they'll be able to rely on them, but if they do want to win, that they're going to have to be able to shoot the ball more consistently from beyond the three-point line. They've shown that they can move the ball inside, but just moving the ball inside alone will not get it. As I said before, they were very consistent on the inside, but 9 from 37 from behind the three-point line isn't going to get it done. Now,
how important is shot selection? Because they did take 37 shots from behind the arc. Why aren't they going more inside?
Well, I think that, after a start to the season that the Pioneers had where they got 37 threes combined in the first 2 games, they have obviously seen that they can be successful from behind the line, and they expected to be or maybe have close to as much success against a very good team, Northwestern Ohio. But, it's just going to be a sort of thing where they have to judge on how much they want to rely on the three game by game.
Thanks, Alex. When we return to the sideline, a big shakeup in the NCAA Top 25 for college football with a lot of upsets over the weekend. I will give you the rundown on the biggest upsets of the weekend and how that shakeup in the Top 25 went.
Here at the Pioneers Sideline, we get freshmen involved as quickly as possible so they get the real-world experience on air and behind the scenes to set themselves apart in internships and potential jobs. Blaine, where is that video? I needed it in KeyPro like yesterday.
All right, I got you, Chris. But I got a quick question for you guys.
What do you mean a question? It's always a question. It's always a... What? Where is he? Blaine!
Blaine!
Blaine! Freshman, you can't find any good ones anymore.
Ever wanted to be behind the mic and have the world listening to your show on campus? Well, it's just as simple as joining WPPJ, Point Park's student-run radio station, located on the 2nd floor of Lawrence Hall, right next to the dining services. Listeners can tune in using Point Park's website or through the TuneIn app by searching WPPJ. WPPJ welcomes any new DJs that want to get involved, so be heard. Do you have what it takes?
Welcome back to the Pioneer Sideline. I'm Trevor Sheets with your regional sports wrap-up. After going 6-1 in their first 7 games and breaking into the top 25 for the first time in 5 years, the Pitt Panthers have hit a bit of a rough patch. After losing to the North Carolina Tar Heels, the Panthers hosted the 5th-ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish at Heinz Field last Saturday. The Irish won the game 42-30 behind the rushing game of Josh Adams, who ran it 20 times for 154 yards and had a receiving touchdown. At the half, the Panthers were already down 21-3, and despite their best efforts, were not able to mount a comeback in the second half. Up next for the Panthers, it does not get any easier. Pitt now must travel to Durham, North Carolina to face the Duke Blue Devils in what has become a very important game for Pitt. Staying at Heinz Field, the Pittsburgh Steelers hosted the Oakland Raiders last Sunday for a matchup between 2 historic rivals. There was a limited amount of defense in this one, with the teams combining for 1,037 yards, and the Steelers came out on top, beating the Raiders 38-35. The victory came via the foot of Chris Boswell, who hit the game-winning field goal with 2 seconds left on the clock to give the Steelers the victory. Quarterback Ben Roethlisberger was once again injured in the game, this time with an injury to his left foot. It is hoped that Roethlisberger will be available after the Steelers' bye week, which is in 2 weeks. Next, the Black and Gold travel to Cleveland to play the Browns. Lastly, the Pittsburgh Penguins wrapped up their tour of Canada with a trip to the West Coast. The Pens played Vancouver, Edmonton, and Calgary in a 4-day stretch and took 2 out of 3 games in that series. After beating the Canucks Wednesday night, the Pens then defeated the Connor McDavid-less Edmonton Oilers 2-1 before getting their winning streak snapped with a loss to the Calgary Flames Saturday night by a score of 5-2. After a few days off, the Pens will host the top team in the East, the Montreal Canadiens, Wednesday night. Now back to Kyle at the desk with your national sports headlines.
Thanks, Trevor. So this past weekend in college football, It was bad news if you were undefeated or a highly ranked team. Let's start off with a weeknight showdown that happened in the MAC Conference when the undefeated and 24th ranked Toledo Rockets took on Northern Illinois. The stats were even the whole way around, with both teams gaining more than 400 yards. Toledo was ahead all game till the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter when Northern Illinois took the lead and never gave it up and won it by a score of 32-27. Now we'll go to the SEC Conference, where number 16 ranked Ole Miss had to go undefeated the rest of the year to get into the SEC championship game. They took on an Arkansas team this weekend that had been a very disappointing team all year, till Saturday when they played their best game of the year. It took a series of laterals and overtime for the Razorbacks to win, but they got the win by a score of 53-52. Now we'll go to the Big 12, where two of the conference's undefeated heavyweights took on each other when number 8 ranked TCU went to Stillwater to take on Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State came out fast and never looked back and won by a score of 49-29. Oklahoma State is no longer the unknown team of the conference. The Cowboys defense shut down Heisman candidate Trayvon Boykin, forcing him to turn the ball over 4 times. Time to go to Lincoln, Nebraska, where the Cornhuskers took on the 7th-ranked Michigan State Spartans. The Spartans were in a tight game from the start. The Spartans went up with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, but they could not keep the lead and ended up losing by a score of 39-38. The final Cornhuskers drive went 91 yards and led to a touchdown that went on to win for the game. The last showdown of the weekend was between LSU and Alabama. The Crimson Tide and Nick Saban showed why they are one of the best teams in the country and won the game by a score of 30-16. The game was not as close as the score might say it was. Alabama running back Derrick Henry ran for 3 touchdowns, and the Heisman favorite Leonard Fournette was shut down by Reggie Ragland and the tough Tide defense. The University of Missouri football team boycotted activities and threatened to not play their game. I'll be joined by some of our analysts to discuss that and much more when we return.
Every human being has a purpose, has a dream to have their voices heard, no matter where they come from, no matter where they go. As an American, it is their right to have freedom of speech. I have a dream that one day this message will speak louder than words, that even the quietest voice will not go unnoticed. That is my dream. What is yours? For more information, visit www.freedomofspeechpsa.org.
Joined by Josh Croup, Blaine King, and Trevor Sheets for another round of the Pioneer Reporters. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get started. The first topic we're going to talk about is a very powerful issue. We're going to talk about Greg Hardy, who was served with a 4-game suspension earlier in the season for domestic violence. A lot of criticisms come out lately because of the photos that have been released of the damage he caused to the woman. Now, she did press charges, but later dropped. I'm actually going to start this one off. I will start off by saying Greg Hardy is a very bad person for what he did to the woman. I know he wasn't charged. But I think it's time for us to realize what the NFL is. The NFL is a league of second chances and talent. Yes, I know that everyone wants to bash on Jerry Jones for calling him a leader, and I understand that. But you know why he signed Greg Hardy? Because he can rush the passer, and that's the second highest paid position in the NFL. So yes, Jerry Jones is bad, but you know what? The league is full of second chances with talent. Pac-Man Jones, Lawrence Taylor, the list goes on and on of guys who have done some very terrible things, but have got that second chance, and are trying to make the most of it. I get bad person, but that's the league.
See, the only issue I have is that even though he has a second chance already, he's not really doing a great job at making a good second impression. There's been so many stories down in Dallas of him acting up and just acting in terrible ways. I agree. I don't think they should have changed his penalty or anything like that. The NFL said they saw those pictures, so that wasn't ever an issue. But I mean, I agree it is a thing of second chances, but Greg Hardy really needs to start taking advantage of his.
I think our beef should be with the players union, because that's who fought to bring down these suspensions. Our argument shouldn't be with the league because they served him with a 10-game suspension. It should be the players' union who fought to get him back on the field because they said that he was so powerful for this league.
The NFL started with a 10-game suspension, and the Players Association fought for their guy. They said, no, that's not fair. That's too harsh. Jerry Jones says that he doesn't condone domestic violence. By putting him on the field, you're totally going in contradiction of what you're saying. I don't think Greg Hardy should be on the field.
And I'm going to agree with you there. Here's my issue. First of all, we have to look at the legal system. How did they let this slip by? Yes, she did not. She dropped the charges, but you know what? This is an issue that goes way beyond the NFL. Goes to the legal system, and we need to improve there. Second, I have to go back to Jerry Jones. He's the one that signed the check. He's the one that signed Greg Hardy. Even though he did not see the pictures, he should still feel some type of way. He called this man a leader. He signed him just for pass rush purposes. Where are the Cowboys right now? They're 2-6. And there's really no purpose to have him on this field.
Well, guys, I'd love to talk about this topic more, but we have to move on. Let's go to another powerful situation in the Midwest. We're going to go to the University of Missouri, who's had a lot of turmoil. The football team said they'd sit out. Gary Pinkel supported his team. What do you all have to say about this? We'll start with you, Josh.
The biggest issue I have with this, props to the football players and everybody at Missouri who is making a difference. They are proving that college students, we have a voice still. But the biggest issue I have, this is just coming out yesterday on Monday. There was a faculty member from the University of Missouri School of Journalism, one of the best schools of journalism in the country. She is leading this group of students that is forming a wall, keeping the student media out and the media in general out. They're pushing these media members. They are saying, no, you guys can't be here. It's a public place. They were observing their First Amendment right to be there protesting, but the journalists were also being there, showing their First Amendment right. I don't think that what they were doing was good, but props to the football players for standing up and getting Tim Wolf out of there. We need a whole new change and a whole new beginning at Missouri.
The only issue I had is that why did it have to get to the point where the Missouri football players had to make the stand? In my mind, the only reason that they actually did Tim Wolf step down, the chancellor step down, is because when the Missouri football players said they weren't going to pay, that was taking money out of the athletics
all about the
department.
money.
Exactly, and that's ridiculous. There was a graduate student on a hunger strike for 7 days. That wasn't enough for them to pay attention. It had to take football players saying, hey, we're not going to play in a meaningless football game. Missouri's not going anywhere. They're not doing anything big, but they're the ones who had to make the change. That's ridiculous in my mind.
Blaine?
Well, here's the issue, and mine is going to go exactly with T-Sheets. Why did I find about this story on ESPN? I didn't hear about the story on CNN. I didn't hear it on any national news. I heard it on ESPN. And this is an issue that we're starting to see a lot, racial comments, racial issues. And by myself being African American, I have to feel for the students. And like Josh said, it's great for the football team, great for the entire school to get behind this issue and to make a stand. But I shouldn't have seen this incident on ESPN. I should have seen it earlier in the week with, like Trevor said, with the hunger strike. Why am I just finding out about it right now? ESPN, like I said, but also to the degree that Josh said. Why is this journalism school, the top journalism school in the country, why are they not letting the media get their attention? The media is trying to help you out. Without the media, we wouldn't know about this issue. So they should let the student media do what they're doing, because they're just going to help propose and greater the cause and show like what you're standing for. Don't push them behind.
I agree with you all, and you all are very bright individuals. But how dare you, University of Missouri, not reacting to this situation until the football team got involved? How dare you not get involved to your boosters threatening to pull money away from your football team? How dare you let it get that far? You have a job as a university to protect your students. You did not do that. You let athletics and the football team dictate what your reactions were. How dare you not take care of this situation before it got that far? How dare you let athletics rule your university and your football team has to make a stand before you do something about this? How dare you put athletics ahead of a civil issue that has ruled this country for so long and that keeps popping up? How dare you not do anything about that? That's all I have to say this time, Nasana. So make sure to join us next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and of course the same Pioneer sideline.